Are you struggling with Tera raid battles? Well, allow me to lend you a helping hand. These are the top 5 Pokemon for Tera raid battles. Not only will I be going over each Pokemon, but I'll also be going over their sets and how to obtain them. The way you'll be training these Pokemon is really easy. You just grab a power weight from the Daily Bird present store, you throw it on the Pokemon, and you KO 28 Pokemon that yield a HP EV. There's a really easy way to do this using sandwiches and getting chances, but honestly, I just open up my map and go do an outbreak for a Pokemon that yields the HP EV. Tadbulbs are kind of always around, and that's a really easy one to do. Just state skip, find it, go KO 28, and HP will be maxed. You'll also be training the attacking stat of that Pokemon, either attack or special attack, but I'll explain that when we get to the sets. You'll also be putting a mint on that Pokemon, either adamant or modest. Adamant if it's an attacker, modest if it's a special attacker. This stuff is really simple, and I'll explain it more as I go. If you get these 5 Pokemon, there's not a 6-star raid you won't be able to do. I even added in some honorable mentions. So let's get into it. The first of the 5 Pokemon we're going to go over is Azumarill. Now, Azumarill is amazing, and I'm sure you've seen it in all of your raids. Using the combination of Belly Drum with huge power, you maximize your attack stat and also double it, making it do an absurd amount of damage. We're going to be using Liquidation and Play Rough as our attacking moves since this is our dual stab coverage. Anyone that doesn't know, Pokemon get something known as Stab, which stands for same type attack bonus, meaning that any move you do that matches your Pokemon's typing will do 50% increased damage. In the last slot, some people like to use Aqua Jet, but I like to use Aqua Ring because I think Sustain is probably the most useful thing in Tera raids. When it comes to the item, you can run Citrus Berry, but I like to run Ability Shield, as raid Pokemon tend to cleanse away your ability, and Ability Shield prevents that, allowing you to maintain huge power and keep that doubled attack stat. For the Tera typing, I like to use Fairy. Now you can get a static Azumarill with Tera Fairy if you go to this point in your map. If you fly to the Casseroya Lake and you swim over here between the islands, you'll see one out in the water. Catch it here, and it will be Tera type Fairy. It will also have huge power already. All you need to do is train that up. Now when it comes to the stats, it's going to be max HP as I mentioned and max attack. To train the maximum attack, you'll be using the Power Bracer. This is again one of the power items you obtain from the Daily Bird present stores. You do the same thing you did to maximize the HP and you KO 28 Pokemon that yield an attack EV. A very common one you'll see in outbreaks is Rufflet. Next up we have the incredibly reliable Iron Hands. Now this is probably everyone's favorite Pokemon to use in the raids. Another Belly Drum Pokemon, though this time we don't have to rely on huge power, we can just use a booster energy to boost Quark Drive. Another option of course is to run the Citrus Berry because you can get that healing when you Belly Drum to half. Although this Pokemon doesn't really need it because we have access to Drain Punch, and that's what makes this to me so much stronger than something like Azumarill. Using Drain Punch can heal you back to full if you use it on a Tera raid Pokemon, since they have so much health and you're doing so much damage. We also have Thunder Punch for more coverage that's also stab, and then Play Rough. Play Rough can help us hit a lot of Pokemon that we may not otherwise. You can also run something like Earthquake or Facade. Honestly, this slot is kind of up to you. You can run Close Combat for more damage. I tend to like this set and I find it very strong. This Pokemon is going to be trained the exact way as the Azumarill is, so definitely just do the same thing. Throw on the same power item, go hit the same Pokemon, and you will have this Pokemon ready to go for your raids. The Tera on this Pokemon is kind of up to you. I tend to go with the Tera fighting ones because Drain Punch gets a lot more out of it, though Tera Electric can be a lot better defensive, only being weak to ground. So definitely something to try out. I think Iron Hands is one of the strongest Pokemon for Tera raid battles. Now Iron Hands is exclusive to Pokemon Violet, but I'm sure you can contact someone that can get you one. If not, Azumarill will work just fine for very similar things. Now next up we have a specialist in Flutter Mane. Flutter Mane is actually probably the best Pokemon going up against special attackers. The reason for this is Calm Mind. Calm Mind boosts both your special defense and special attack by 1 stage, making you really tough to take down with that big bulky special defensive stat. You also do an absurd amount of damage boosting that special attack as well. We also run Fake Tears because this allows you to lower the target's special defense by 2 stages. If you do this before the Pokemon puts up its shield, you will do a lot of damage to both that shield and to the Pokemon. This is actually probably one of the best Pokemon to use for the Charizard raids. Not to mention that for the moves we have Moonblast and we also have Draining Kiss. Now Draining Kiss is going to do less damage than Moonblast, but it's going to give you recovery. You heal 75% of the damage you deal, meaning that if you boost up enough times, you'll be healing to full while doing damage, similar to Iron Hands, and that makes this really strong. Recovery is a very big deal in raids. Now the item I like to use is the Booster Energy because it gives you that boost in special attack, but you can also run something here like the Covered Cloak, which stops secondary effects of moves. That means something like Hurricane can't confuse you. Really good for the Charizard raid. and I highly recommend this Pokemon. Now with this Pokemon, it's max HP like all the others, but this time we're maximizing our special attack. To maximize special attack, you just throw in a power lens and you go to outbreaks of Pokemon that yield special attack. The most common ones I tend to see are Magnemite and Psyduck. Now Flutter is exclusive to Pokemon Scarlet, so if you can't get your hands on one, you can just use Sylveon. You can run a very similar set, though this time you just use Hyper Voice to use Pixelate, though if you can't get a hidden ability one, Moonblast works just fine, and you run the exact same set doing the exact same thing. It's just a little less optimal, unless you want to run Pixelate as the hidden ability and use Hyper Beam. This can actually one-shot certain raids with the help of Helping Hand from a partner, so something to keep in mind. We go Tera Fairy to maximize the damage, and you can get a static Tera Fairy Sylveon if you go to this point here on the map. If you travel to the North Province Area 3 Lighthouse, you can travel over to the side here, and there will be a static Sylveon there waiting for you to catch, and it will have the Tera type of Fairy. Now let's talk about what I believe to be the best Pokemon for physical raids, and even a lot of special ones too if they can't hit you too hard, and that is Annihilape. This Pokemon is absolutely absurd. For those that don't know, the move Rage Fist powers up by 50 base power every time you get hit. I think it maxes out at something like 300, which is really absurd. If you use the combination of Bulk Up with Screech, boosting your attack and defense while lowering the enemy's defense, and every time you get hit, Rage Fist gets stronger, you become an absolute powerhouse that just one-shots Tera raids. It's really powerful. I think it's probably one of the strongest ones to use. Now if the Pokemon's a normal type and Rage Fist can't hit it, well then we have Stab Drain Punch, which is super effective on those normal types and even on those dark types that resist Rage Fist. There's essentially nothing you can't hit for at least neutral damage in the game with this Pokemon, and with the ability to set up and lower the defenses on its own, it's probably one of the, if not the strongest Pokemon to use in raids, especially if they're physical. When it comes to the Tera, I tend to go Ghost, and the reason for that is it boosts up Rage Fist, but you can go whatever you want. I have a Tera Water one that I use that's just fine. It really doesn't matter. This Pokemon packs such an incredible punch that even if you're not Terrasolized, you can completely take down those Tera shields. I tend to use the Punching Glove as the item. Now, anything really works here. I just use the Punching Glove because it gives me a small boost to my punching move's damage, but it also stops me from getting burned by things like Flame Body or paralyzed by things like Static, which is really helpful to have, but it's not a must. You can use whatever you want here, honestly. When it comes to the ability, I use Defiant. This is a really good ability because if you get hit by a stat dropping move like say Intimidate by the Pokemon, your attack stage goes up by 2. If you get hit by a move that will lower your defenses, your attack stage goes up by 2. It just speeds up the process of beating things down. Though Vital Spirit is worth mentioning, because Vital Spirit is an amazing ability. You cannot be put to sleep if you have this, meaning if you go up against Pokemon that have things like Spore, or if they have Yawn, that won't be a problem to you. You'll never have to worry about sleep, so something to definitely keep in mind. This Pokemon will be trained in the exact same way we train Azumarill and Iron Hands, with the max attack and the max HP. Annihilape is actually quite easy to obtain. All you need to do is get a Primeape, teach it the move Rage Fist, and then punch something 20 times with it. You don't even have to hit the Pokemon. You can go up to a normal type and just use Rage Fist over and over again until you've used it 20 times, and then you give it a rare candy and it will evolve into an Annihilape. Now let's talk about what I think is probably one of the strongest Pokemon for just solo Tera raid battles that just hits so hard and doesn't have to worry about any of those annoying things like Yawn or Burn or Paralysis, because this Pokemon cannot be hit by status moves, and that is Gholdengo. Now Gholdengo is really tedious to obtain. You have to get 999 Gimmighoul coins and then give them to a Gimmighoul, which is kind of annoying, but it's worth it because Gholdengo is a very good typing in Steel and Ghost and has very strong moves. You get Nasty Plot, which raises your special attack by 2 stages, Metal Sound, which lowers the enemy's special defense by 2 stages, and then Make It Rain, which unleashes hell upon your opponents with 120 base power. Now this will lower your attack stage, but because of Nasty Plot, you'll still remain positive. You can also use Steel Beam here, which is a lot of damage, but it will chunk your health down to 50, and you can one-shot a lot of raids with that strategy. We also have Shadow Ball for Ghost Stab, and there's not much that wants to take a Ghost move in the game, which is really helpful for those Tera raids. The ability Good as Gold is what is crazy for this Pokemon. Good as Gold makes you immune to status moves, as I mentioned. You can't be Spored, you can't be Yawned, you can't be Thunderwaved, you can't be Will-O-Wisp, you can't be Taunted. There's just so much that they can't do to you to stop you with this Pokemon, and it makes it just really good for those raids because you don't have to worry about any of those annoying things that Pokemon can do. I tend to run the Expert Belt because I usually use this when things are weaker to this Pokemon, but you can run whatever you want here, honestly. You can run whatever item you want. The choice is completely up to you. This one is again done in special attack, the same way we train Flutter main, so definitely consider Gholdengo as one of the better Pokemon for raids. I also wanted to honorably mention Berserker. Berserker is amazing in teams of 4, I'm sure you've seen that strategy floating around. It's because of Steely Spirit. This makes your steel moves 1.5 times stronger, and this stacks with multiple Berserkers. So because of that, we'll be using Iron Head as a steel move and Metal Coat to boost that even further. We use Taunt to stop setup Pokemon, Swords Dance to increase our damage, and Screech to lower the defense of enemy Pokemon. If you get a team of 4 Berserkers, there's not many raids you can't take on. Now you'll obtain this Pokemon from Salvatore at the school. All you have to do is finish the language finals and do his quest, though you will have to use an ability patch to get Steely Spirit. These Pokemon were not in any particular order, but they're all very strong in their own right. I hope you found this video helpful, and I hope it helps you conquer your Tera raid battles. Using just the Pokemon listed here, there is not one 6-star raid you won't be able to solo. So as always guys, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and have a wonderful day.